The crystal chandelier bathed the entrance hall in golden light. Daniel Carvalho adjusted his tie knot, checking his reflection in the Venetian mirror. 40 guests in the ballroom. Investors, businessmen, São Paulo's elite. Everything perfect. The doorbell interrupted his inspection. Helena Ferreira stood at the threshold of the massive door, her calloused fingers clutching the strap of her worn purse. The navy blue dress, the only one she owned for special occasions, had been mended at the shoulder. 40 years of domestic work had slightly curved her shoulders, but hadn't broken the dignity in her gaze. "May I help you?" Gabriela Montero appeared beside Daniel, blonde, elegant, smile frozen. Her eyes swept over Helena from head to toe, lingering on the worn shoes, a cruel, silent inventory. Helena stepped forward. "Daniel, I need to speak with you. It's about that box you left at my house. It has important documents." The silence was dense as lead. Daniel didn't move. His blue eyes remained cold, distant. In the background, champagne glasses clinked like funeral bells. "I think you're confused, ma'am," Daniel said, each word polite but sharp. "I don't know you." Helena felt the ground slip away. For a moment she thought she'd heard wrong, but then she saw it. The tension in his jaw, the way his fingers gripped Gabriela's arm. He was denying her. Denying her. "Daniel, it's me. Your mother." Gabriela let out a crystalline laugh. "Dear, I think you have the wrong address. My fiancé has no connection with people like you." The tears came before Helena could stop them. 40 years. 40 years cleaning strangers' homes to pay for his school. 40 years eating scraps so he could have decent clothes. 40 years building the foundation of the empire he now used to crush her. From the ballroom, muffled voices. Someone had noticed. "Security will escort you out," Daniel said, gesturing to a uniformed man. His voice didn't tremble. There was no doubt, no recognition, only glacial emptiness. Helena stepped back, hands shaking. The humiliation burned her throat like acid. She had come to return something of his, something precious he'd left behind years ago when he still visited her. Now she understood the mistake. He hadn't forgotten the box. He had forgotten her. But before turning away, Helena did something Daniel would never forget. She looked him in the eyes, truly looked, with that gaze that pierced through lies, and whispered low, "You can deny me, Daniel, but you can't deny what's coming." And then she left, small and hunched, swallowed by the São Paulo night. Daniel closed the door. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Gabriela smiled, satisfied, and returned to the guests. "Poor thing, must have dementia. Confused you with her son." Daniel nodded but didn't move. He stood alone in the illuminated hall, staring at his own hand, the hand that didn't reach out, that didn't touch, that didn't hold. For the first time in years, he felt something he'd buried deep. Fear. In his coat pocket, his phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "Those documents your mother mentioned, they're about your real father, and the inheritance you never knew existed." Dua, the wounds of the past. Helena's hands trembled as she unlocked the door to her modest apartment in Jardim, São Paulo. The fluorescent light flickered twice before staying on, illuminating peeling paint and furniture older than Daniel himself. She dropped her purse on the worn sofa, her bones aching from the long bus ride. 3 transfers, 2 hours, just to be humiliated in under 5 minutes. Her eyes drifted to the photograph on the cracked side table. A young boy, maybe 7, gap-toothed smile, holding a homemade birthday cake. She'd worked a double shift that day, then rushed to bakery school to learn how to make him something special. "Maman, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a big house," he'd said, chocolate on his chin. "You'll never clean toilets again, I promise." The memories shattered like glass. Helena moved to the small bedroom, opening the wooden wardrobe. Behind her dresses hung a plastic bag. Inside, every report card, every certificate, every acceptance letter, University of São Paulo, full scholarship, almost. She'd covered the rest working 3 jobs. 5 a.m., office buildings downtown. Noon, washing dishes in Pinheiros. 8 p.m., ironing clothes in Jardim Europa. She'd see Daniel once a week, Sundays, when exhaustion forced her to rest. He'd complain about classmates who vacationed in Miami, who drove expensive cars, who never knew hunger. "They don't know how lucky they are," he'd said once, watching a Porsche pull up to campus. His eyes held something then, not gratitude, but hunger. "You'll have all that one day," she'd told him, "but you'll never forget where you came from. Promise me." "I promise, mine." The words echoed like a curse. Elena pulled out a shoebox. Inside, birthday cards he'd stopped sending after his 3rd year in business. Photographs from a graduation she'd attended alone, sitting in the back row because her uniform embarrassed him. A single Mother's Day gift from 5 years ago. A cheap bracelet with a note. "Sorry I can't visit. Too busy." The excuses piled up like debris. Too busy, too far, too much to do, until the visits stopped, until tonight, when she became a stranger at his door. A knock interrupted her grief. Elena opened the door. A young man in a grey suit stood in the dim hallway, leather briefcase in hand. "Elena Ferreira?" "Yes, I'm Dr. Henrique Almeida, attorney at Silva and Andrade." He extended a thick manila envelope. "I represent the estate of Roberto Andrade. You've been named in his will." Elena's breath caught. That name, a name she hadn't spoken in 32 years. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Roberto died 3 months ago. His family is contesting the will. But Mr. Andrade left specific instructions. This concerns your son, Daniel Carvalho." The lawyer's eyes held pity. "You need to read this tonight, Mrs. Ferreira. Everything is about to change." He handed her the envelope and disappeared down the stairwell. Elena stood frozen, the packet heavy in her hands. Inside, a letter began. "My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And it's time Daniel learns the truth about who his real father was." Her knees buckled. She slid down against the doorframe, clutching the letter. Roberto Andrade, the industrialist, the man who'd promised her everything 32 years ago, then vanished when his family discovered she was a maid. The man whose blue eyes Daniel had inherited. The man who apparently never forgot. Elena's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered with shaking hands. A woman's voice, cold and sharp. "Stay away from the Andrade fortune, or your son will pay the price." The line went dead. Gabriella's game. Daniel stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, São Paulo glittering below. His mother's words echoed, "You can't deny what's coming." "Still thinking about that woman?" Gabriella entered without knocking, Louboutins clicking on marble. She carried 2 espressos, her smile perfect. "Just some confused old lady," Daniel said. Gabriella sipped delicately. "Confused enough to know your name? To mention documents?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "What are you implying?" "I'm saying people from your past can be dangerous, especially when they're desperate." Her fingers adjusted his collar. "You've worked too hard to let some woman in a cheap dress ruin everything. Our investors don't need to know about complications." "She's not a complication." "Then what is she?" Before Daniel could answer, his phone buzzed. Marcos Tavares, his business partner. "Daniel, we need to talk. Now. It's about the Andrade estate." Daniel's blood turned cold. "What about it? Just get here." The line went dead. Gabriella's expression shifted. Just for a second, something flickered. Satisfaction. 20 minutes later, Daniel sat across from Marcos in a conference room. Legal documents spread between them. Marcos, silver-haired and sharp, didn't waste time. Roberto Andrade died 3 months ago. Andrade Steel, Andrade Properties. Estate worth 340 million reais. He pushed a document forward. His will mentions an illegitimate heir, the son of Elena Ferreira. The room tilted. Elena. Roberto Andrade. "That's impossible," Daniel whispered. "My father was... We never knew who he was." Roberto Andrade believed he was. Marcos tapped the paper. His legitimate children are contesting the will. They filed an injunction claiming the heir should be disqualified due to fraudulent claims and lack of moral character. Why would they? Because someone told them the heir exists. Someone gave them your name. Marcos leaned forward. That woman showing up at your party full of witnesses, that wasn't coincidence. He pulled out his phone, showing a photo. Gabriela smiling warmly at an elegant older woman, heads close in conversation. This is Gabriela having lunch with Patricia Andrade 2 weeks ago. Daniel's hands went numb. She knew. She knew about Elena. Not just knew, she orchestrated it. Marcos closed the folder. The question is, why? Daniel stood, the world spinning. Gabriela had researched him, found Elena, discovered the inheritance. And then what? Manipulated him into denying his mother publicly to disqualify him from the estate. But why? His phone buzzed. Unknown number. A scanned document appeared. Birth certificate. Father, Roberto Andrade. Mother, Elena Ferreira. Child, Daniel Ferreira Carvalho. Date, March 15th, 1991. Below it, one line, your fiancée knows everything, and she's working with them. Daniel stared at the document. 32 years, his entire life built on a lie. Elena had known. She'd always known who his father was, and she'd never told him. There's more, Marcos said quietly. If you're disqualified, the estate defaults to Roberto's children, but there's a loophole. If one of them marries someone with a claim to challenge on your behalf, he paused. Gabriela could contest as your wife. The pieces clicked into place like a nightmare puzzle. Gabriela wasn't trying to protect his reputation. She was destroying his claim to position herself as the legitimate heir through marriage and legal manipulation. She'd used him. Daniel's phone rang. Gabriela, darling, where are you? We have the Ferreira group lunch in 20 minutes. I know what you're doing, Daniel said, his voice ice. Silence. Then her laugh, no longer warm. Do you? That's unfortunate. Why? Because 340 million reais is worth a little theatre, don't you think? Her voice hardened. You were always going to be a means to an end, Daniel, just like your mother. The line went dead. Marcos watched him carefully. What now? Daniel looked at the birth certificate, at his mother's name written in faded ink. Now? Now I find Elena before they do. The letter. Elena sat on her worn sofa, the manila envelope heavy in her lap. Outside, São Paulo's night sounds filtered through thin walls. She hadn't moved since the lawyer left. The threatening phone call still rang in her ears. Stay away from the Andrade fortune, or your son will pay the price. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal. Inside, legal documents and a handwritten letter on cream paper. The handwriting made her chest constrict. Roberto. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, I'm gone. 32 years ago, I made the wrong choice. When my family discovered I'd fallen in love with you, a maid in my father's house, they gave me an ultimatum. Marry Patricia Albuquerque and unite our empires, or lose everything. I chose the empire. I chose money over you, but I never forgot. Elena's vision blurred. She was 19, cleaning the library of the Andrade mansion. Roberto was 23, home from business school. 3 months of stolen conversations, 6 months of secret meetings, 1 year of love that felt like revolution. Then his family found out. She'd been fired, thrown out with her belongings in a garbage bag. And Roberto had let them. I learned you were pregnant 2 months later. My mother told me, expecting relief. Instead, I felt my soul tear in half. I searched for you, but you'd vanished. My mother made sure no one would hire you. No one would tell me where you'd gone. I was weak, Elena, too weak to fight them. So I watched Daniel grow through private investigators. Every school play, every graduation, I saw it all from the shadows. He has my eyes, your strength. Elena's hand covered her mouth. All those years, Roberto had known, had watched, had done nothing. On Brigitte Judo, I've left Daniel 40% of my personal estate. 172 million reais in assets my family can't touch. Properties, investments, accounts I built independently. There's a condition. He must acknowledge his parentage publicly. He must claim the Andrade name. My legitimate children will fight this. They've hired lawyers to destroy any claim Daniel might make. But there's proof. DNA samples, birth records, photographs. Everything is in Safety Deposit Box 347 at Banco Central, Avenida Paulista. The key is inside this envelope. Elena, I'm asking you to do what I never could. Fight them. Not for me, but for Daniel. For the son who should have grown up as an Andrade. Give him what I stole from both of you. Forever yours, Roberto. Elena found the key taped inside. Small brass number 347 engraved. 172 million reais. Daniel's birthright. Her phone rang. Daniel's number. She stared at it, tears streaming. The son who'd denied her hours ago. The son who'd inherited Roberto's eyes and his cowardice, but also the son she'd loved through every sacrifice. She answered. Daniel's voice cracked. I know about Roberto. I know everything. Please, where are you? Before she could answer, her apartment door exploded inward. Two men in suits stepped through the splintered wood, eyes cold and professional. Behind them, a woman's silhouette, elegant, commanding. Elena Ferreira. The woman's voice was ice. I'm Patricia Andrade. We need to talk about my husband's mistake. Blood and money. Get out of my home. Elena stood, clutching Roberto's letter behind her back. Patricia Andrade stepped fully into the apartment, her Chanel suit incongruous against peeling wallpaper. She was 60, perfectly preserved, her face a mask of controlled contempt. The two men flanked her like trained dogs. You're home. Patricia's laugh was sharp. This rat hole, 40 years scrubbing toilets, and this is what you managed. Her eyes swept the modest room with surgical precision. Roberto felt so guilty about you. I always told him you were fine. People like you are resilient. People like me, Elena repeated, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Don't be offended. It's simply a fact. Patricia moved closer, her perfume expensive and suffocating. You were built for survival. My husband was built for empire, oil and water. He loved me. Love? Patricia's smile was poisonous. He loved the fantasy of you, the noble savage, the pure-hearted maid. It's a common affliction among privileged men. They romanticize poverty until it asks something of them. She paused. He abandoned you when it mattered. That's the truth love tells. Elena's fingers tightened on the letter. What do you want? The documents my husband left you. The key to his safety deposit box. And your signature on a form renouncing any claim Daniel might have to the Andrade estate. He's Roberto's son. Legally, genetically irrelevant. Roberto's legitimate children, my children, built that fortune alongside him. We won't let some housemaid's bastard steal what we earned. The slap came before Elena realized. Her hand had moved. The sound cracked through the apartment like thunder. Patricia's head snapped sideways. For 3 seconds, nobody breathed. Then Patricia touched her reddening cheek, her smile returning slow and terrible. I was hoping you'd do that. Ricardo, call the police. Assault. Breaking and entering charges against her if she resists. You broke into my home, and you assaulted me. Who do you think they'll believe? Patricia's eyes glittered. The widow of Roberto Andrade, or a desperate woman with a criminal son. Daniel isn't he? My lawyers have been very thorough. Tax irregularities in his companies. Suspicious contracts. Nothing prosecutable yet, but with the right pressure from the right people. She let the threat hang. Make this easy, Elena. Sign the papers. Keep the letter as a keepsake. Walk away with your dignity. Elena's phone rang again. Still Daniel's number. Patricia glanced at it. Don't answer. He'll only complicate things. Elena answered anyway, her eyes locked on Patricia. Daniel, listen to me. Don't sign anything. Don't give them the key. I'm coming. Patricia snatched the phone and ended the call. Stupid woman, do you know what you've just done? Before Elena could respond, One of the men moved toward the bedroom, toward the wardrobe where she'd hidden the envelope. "Stop!" Eleanor lunged forward, but the second man caught her arm, his grip iron. Patricia walked calmly to the bedroom, her heels clicking like a countdown. Eleanor heard the wardrobe open, heard papers rustling. "Found it," Patricia called out, emerging with the manila envelope. "Thank you for making this simple." She opened it, examining the key with satisfaction. Then she dropped the letter, Roberto's final words, onto the floor. "Sentiment is expensive, Elena. You can't afford it." The apartment door slammed shut, leaving Elena alone with the scattered pages of a dead man's confession, and the sickening certainty that she'd just lost everything. The hidden son. Daniel arrived 20 minutes too late. The splintered door hung open. Inside, Elena sat motionless, Roberto's letters scattered across the floor like fallen leaves. "Mine!" He dropped to his knees. "Are you hurt?" She didn't look at him. "They took the key. Patricia, she took everything. I'll get it back. You don't understand." Elena finally met his eyes. "It wasn't just an affair, Daniel. It wasn't some mistake Roberto made with the help." She picked up a page, fingers tracing the handwriting like touching a ghost. "I was 19, cleaning books in a library bigger than this building. He was 23, brilliant, kind. We fell in love, real love." Daniel listened, his throat tight. "His family found out after a year. They called me vermin, threatened to have me arrested." Her hands trembled. "They gave Roberto a choice, marry Patricia and merge two empires or lose everything. And he chose them. He was 24. Terrified." She looked at Daniel. "But I blame him for staying weak, for watching you grow from a distance instead of being a father." Daniel felt something crack inside. "You knew. All these years you knew who my father was." "Yes." Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to be an Andrade. I didn't want you cold, calculating, measuring people by bank accounts. I wanted you to remember where you came from." The accusation hung like smoke. "How did that work out?" Daniel's voice was bitter. "I denied you in front of everyone." "Yes, you did." 3 figures appeared in the doorway. 2 men, 1 woman, all expensive, all sharing Roberto's sharp features. The woman spoke first. "So you're the hidden son, the secret our father couldn't bury." "Carolina Andrade," one man added. "Felipe and Rodrigo, Roberto's legitimate children, your half-siblings." Carolina stepped inside, examining Daniel like a specimen. "You look like him, same eyes, same weak chin." She turned to Elena with venom. "And you, the maid who destroyed our family." "Your father destroyed his own family," Elena said quietly. "Our father left you money built on our mother's fortune, our legacy." Felipe moved closer. "If you pursue this inheritance, we will destroy you both, legally, socially, physically if necessary." Rodrigo showed a video on his phone, Elena slapping Patricia. "Assault, witnessed, documented. 1 call and she's in jail." "Walk away," Carolina said, "or wish you had." Daniel stood slowly, placing himself between them and Eleanor. "Get out." Carolina smiled. "Your mother's home? How sweet. We bought her debt. She has 30 days. She dropped an eviction notice on the floor. "Clock's ticking, little brother." The 3 Andrade siblings left, their footsteps echoing down the stairwell. Daniel stared at the eviction notice. 30 days. They'd moved fast, efficiently, with the ruthless precision of people who'd never been denied anything. Elena picked up Roberto's scattered letter, trying to reassemble his final words. "I'm sorry," Daniel whispered, "for everything." Elena didn't respond. She simply folded the letter carefully and placed it against her heart. Outside, a car engine started, the Andrades driving away, leaving destruction in their wake. Daniel's phone buzzed. A message from Marcos. "Gabriela emptied your joint accounts. She's gone." Gabriela's betrayal. Daniel sat in his penthouse at 3 a.m., Marcos across from him, documents spread like evidence of murder. bank statements, wire transfers, email exchanges. She started planning this 8 months ago, Marcos said, pointing to a transaction. Right after Roberto's cancer diagnosis became public knowledge. Daniel stared at the numbers. 2 million reais, transferred from their joint account to an offshore company, then another million, then property deeds, stock certificates, liquidated investments. She researched you, found Elena, discovered the inheritance clause. Marcos pulled up an email chain. Then she contacted Carolina Andrade. Look at this, from gmonteroLuxConsult.com to C. Andrade Corp. Come subject mutual interests, Carolina. We should talk. I'm engaged to your father's illegitimate son. He doesn't know about the inheritance yet. I believe we can help each other ensure the Andrade fortune stays where it belongs, with the legitimate family. Daniel's hands clenched. When was this sent? 3 weeks before she accepted your proposal. The room tilted. Their entire relationship. A transaction. Every kiss, every promise, every intimate moment. Calculated. There's more. Marcos hesitated. She's not just working with them. She's planning to marry Felipe Andrade once your engagement ends. There's a prenup already drafted. Daniel laughed, a broken sound. She's upgrading. Trading the bastard son for the legitimate heir. It's brilliant, actually. Sociopathic, but brilliant. Marcos closed the laptop. She gets you to publicly deny Elena, destroying your moral claim to the inheritance. Then she positions herself with the Andrades as the woman who saved them from your fraudulent claim. Felipe marries her, grateful. She gets access to the full Andrade fortune instead of just your 40%. Why tell me this now? Because I'm your friend, and watching you self-destruct is painful. Marcos leaned forward. But also because she made a mistake. She tried to bribe my assistant for confidential files on your business. When that failed, she sent someone to break into my office. He showed photos. A man in black, caught on security cameras, rifling through filing cabinets. I had him arrested. He talked. Named Gabriela and Carolina as co-conspirators in corporate espionage. Daniel stood, moving to the window. São Paulo stretched endlessly below, lights like scattered stars. How many of those lights belonged to people Gabriela had used? How many futures had she calculated and discarded? Where is she now? The Andrade estate in Campinas. Planning the next phase with your loving siblings. Daniel's phone rang. Unknown number, he answered. Daniel? Eleanor's voice was weak, wrong. I'm sorry to call so late, but A crash, the sound of something heavy falling. My... Silence. Then a neighbor's distant voice. Someone call an ambulance. Daniel was moving before conscious thought, grabbing his keys, running for the elevator. Marcos followed. What happened? Elena collapsed. They hit the ground floor at a sprint. Daniel's car screamed out of the garage, traffic laws meaningless. His phone buzzed, a text from Gabriela. Heard about your mother. Stress can be fatal at her age. Should have signed those papers. Below it, a photo. Gabriela and Felipe Andrade, champagne glasses raised, celebrating. Daniel's vision went red. Marcos grabbed his arm. Drive, get to Elena, deal with them after. The hospital appeared like salvation. Daniel abandoned the car, running through emergency doors. A doctor met him, face grave. You're Elena Ferreira's son. Yes, how is she? She had a cardiac episode, severe stress-induced. We've stabilized her, but... The doctor paused. Her heart is weak. Another episode like this could be fatal. Through the window, Daniel saw Elena, small, fragile, hooked to machines that beeped with mechanical indifference. The woman who'd sacrificed everything, while he'd sacrificed her. The confrontation. Elena was released after 3 days. Daniel moved her to his penthouse, hired nurses, but she refused his help with the case. I'll fight them myself, she said. You've done enough damage. The hearing was Monday at civil court. Daniel sat in the back row. Elena stood before the judge while 3 expensive lawyers represented the Andrades. Patricia sat front row, composed. Beside her, Carolina, Felipe, Rodrigo, and Gabriela, holding Felipe's hand, Daniel's ring already gone. The lead attorney stood. "Your Honor, Mrs. Ferreira claims her son deserves Roberto Andrade's estate based on an alleged relationship. This is fraud to extort a grieving family." "Fraudulent?" Elena's public defender, Julia Costa, stood. "We have a signed letter from Roberto Andrade acknowledging paternity." Anyone could forge a letter. Julia placed forensic analysis on the bench. "The letter is authenticated. We also have bank records. 23 years of monthly payments to Elena. They stopped when Daniel turned 18. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Support payments prove nothing. Mr. Andrade was charitable. 23 years? That's not charity. That's responsibility. Carolina stood abruptly. "This woman is a liar, a gold digger who trapped my father." The judge's gavel cracked. "Miss Andrade, sit down or be removed." Elena stood slowly. "May I speak, Your Honor?" "Proceed." "I didn't come for money. I came so my son could know his father." Her voice carried like a prayer. "Roberto loved me and abandoned me. He watched Daniel grow from a distance like a coward, then left money out of guilt." She turned to Patricia. "You won. You got the man, the name, the life, but you didn't get his heart. That died with me 32 years ago." Patricia's mask cracked slightly. "I don't want Roberto's money," Eleanor continued. "But Daniel deserves recognition, truth, justice." Julia placed DNA evidence before the judge. "We've submitted samples from Daniel and Roberto's medical records." The judge reviewed carefully. "I'm ordering immediate DNA comparison. Results in 48 hours. Adjourned." The gavel fell. As people filed out, Gabriela approached with Felipe. "Enjoy the circus?" She smiled. "You destroyed everything," Daniel said quietly. "No, I optimized. You were the inferior investment." She leaned close. "When the DNA proves nothing, you'll lose everything, and I'll be an Andrade by marriage." An officer approached. "Gabriela Montero, you're under arrest for corporate espionage, fraud, and conspiracy." Felipe stepped back immediately. Gabriela's face went white. "What? Daniel, what did you—" "Marcos pressed charges. Breaking into offices is illegal." As officers handcuffed her, Gabriela's composure shattered. "You'll regret this. The Andrades will destroy you." But the Andrades were already leaving, distancing themselves. Elena watched from the courthouse steps, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time in days. Daniel joined her silently. They stood together, not speaking, the gap between them still an ocean. His phone buzzed. "DNA lab. Results ready. Call immediately." Daniel showed Elena the screen. Her hand trembled as she reached for his arm, the first time she'd touched him since the denial. "Whatever it says," she whispered, "we face it together." Daniel nodded, unable to speak past the knot in his throat. Inside the courthouse, a lawyer was already drafting the next motion. Outside, the Andrades climbed into luxury cars, already plotting their response. And somewhere in a holding cell, Gabriela screamed threats no one was listening to anymore. The truth was coming, and it would change everything. Truth and ashes. The DNA results arrived by courier at 9 p.m. Daniel and Elena sat in the penthouse living room, the sealed envelope between them, like a live grenade. "Open it," Elena said. Daniel's hands shook as he tore the seal. His eyes scanned the technical language, the percentages, the conclusive statement at the bottom. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. Conclusion, Roberto Andrade is the biological father of Daniel Ferreira Carvalho. The paper slipped from his fingers. Elena picked it up, reading the words she'd known were true for 32 years. "Now you know." "Why?" Daniel's voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me? Why let me grow up thinking I was nobody's son?" "Because you were somebody's son. Mine." Elena's eyes were fierce. "Roberto was DNA. I was everything else. The nights you had nightmares. The mornings I packed your lunch. The years I worked myself into dust so you could have a future. He sent money. You said so in court. Yes, guilt money. Deposited into an account I never touched. Elena stood, moving to a drawer. She pulled out a bank statement, yellowed with age. Look. Daniel stared at the numbers. Monthly deposits for 23 years. The balance, 847,000 rees. Untouched. Growing with interest, like a monument to pride. You never spent it? I didn't want his money. I wanted his presence, his courage, his love. Elena's voice hardened. Money was all he knew how to give, so I refused it. Every reel, every cent. I wanted you to understand something money can't teach. What? That dignity isn't for sale. Daniel felt something break inside him, not crack, but shatter completely. I sold mine. That night, when I denied you, I sold it for what? For Gabriella's approval? For a chance to belong to their world? Yes, the word was a knife. I became what you feared most, Daniel whispered. An Andrade, cold, calculating, measuring people by their usefulness. Elena sat beside him, close, but not touching. Roberto's blood runs in you, but so does mine. Blood doesn't decide who you are, choices do. Then I've already chosen wrong, so choose differently. Elena took his hand, calloused, worn, strong. The inheritance. Roberto's 40%. That's 172 million reais. The Andrades will fight, but with the DNA proof you'll win. I don't want it. Neither did I. But it's yours. Elena's grip tightened. Here's the choice, Daniel. Take the money. Build your empire. Become the Andrade Roberto wanted you to be. Or honor the sacrifice. Use it to help people like me. Like us. The ones who clean their toilets and raise their children and die invisible. Daniel looked at his mother, truly looked. At the grey in her hair, the lines around her eyes, the evidence of 40 years spent in service to a son who'd thrown her away. If I take the money, he said slowly, I'm accepting his guilt as payment. I'm saying his cowardice has a price. Yes. And if I refuse it? You stay poor, you stay nobody, but you stay clean. Daniel stood, moving to the window. São Paulo spread below, glittering and indifferent. Somewhere in that sprawl the Andrades were plotting. Gabriella was negotiating bail. His empire was crumbling, and his mother was offering him salvation or damnation. I need time, he said. Elena nodded. You have 48 hours. Then the court reconvenes. She left him alone with the DNA results and the impossible choice. Keep the money and betray everything she taught him, or refuse it and prove he was finally his mother's son. The price of shame. The news broke Tuesday morning. Millionaire denies mother, then claims inheritance, screamed the headline across every major outlet. Someone had leaked the courtroom footage, Daniel closing the door on Elena, her tears, his cold eyes. The video went viral in 6 hours. By noon, Daniel's phone exploded with notifications. Investors pulling out. Partners requesting emergency meetings to discuss reputational concerns. His company's stock dropped 23% before trading was halted. The board called an emergency session. Daniel sat at the head of the conference table, 12 faces staring at him with varying degrees of disgust and calculation. These were men and women he'd done business with for years. People who'd shaken his hand, drunk his champagne, celebrated his success. Now they looked at him like a disease. We've reviewed the footage, said Augusto Pires, the lead investor. Is it authentic? Yes. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Did you deny your own mother? Asked Maria Sousa, the CFO he'd personally promoted. I did. Why? Daniel had prepared explanations. Social pressure, Gabriella's manipulation, fear of losing his carefully constructed image. But sitting there, facing their judgment, all the justifications crumbled into ash. Because I was ashamed of where I came from, he said finally. They wanted to erase my past, pretend I was born into their world instead of cleaning it. Augusto leaned back. You understand this is a PR catastrophe? Our clients are religious organizations, family foundations, socially conscious funds. They don't invest in men who humiliate their mothers. I know. We're recommending you step down as CEO. effective immediately. A transition board will manage operations until—" "I'll resign," Daniel interrupted. "You don't need to fire me. I'll sell my shares back to the company at current value, below market. Consider it penance." The board exchanged glances. They'd expected a fight. What they got was surrender. "We'll draw up the papers," Maria said quietly. Something like sympathy flickered in her eyes. "For what it's worth, Daniel, I'm sorry." He left his own company through the side entrance, avoiding cameras. His penthouse felt like a mausoleum, empty, echoing, built on foundations of sand. His phone rang constantly. Reporters, lawyers, former friends suddenly unavailable. The social circles Gabriela had introduced him to, gone. Invitations cancelled. Messages left unread. By evening, he'd lost everything he'd spent 10 years building. Everything except the one thing that mattered. Daniel drove to Elena's new apartment, a modest one-bedroom he'd rented for her near the hospital. He knocked, waited. The door opened slightly. One of the nurses, Carla, blocked the entrance. "She doesn't want to see you." "Please, I need to talk to her. I've made my decision about the inheritance." "She knows. She saw the news." Carla's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Carvalho, your mother had another cardiac episode this afternoon, stress-induced. The doctors say one more could be fatal." Daniel's world stopped. "Is she—" "She's stable, but she can't handle this right now. The media circus, the court case, it's killing her." Carla started closing the door. "She asked me to tell you something. Make your choice for yourself, not for me." The door clicked shut. Daniel stood in the hallway, alone with the weight of consequences. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Press conference tomorrow. Andrade family will reveal proof that Elena extorted Roberto. You have 12 hours to decide, fight or surrender." Below it, a photo. Carolina Andrade, surrounded by lawyers, holding documents Daniel couldn't read. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Redemption's path. Daniel didn't sleep. At 4 a.m. he sat at his desk, drafting documents that would either save him or finish what remained of his life. By dawn, he'd made his decision. At 9 a.m. he walked into his lawyer's office with instructions that made the man's eyebrows rise. "You want to do what?" "Liquidate everything. The penthouse, the cars, the investments, everything I own. Convert it to cash." "Mr. Carvalho, that's financial suicide. Your assets are worth—" "I know what they're worth. Do it." By noon, the liquidation was in motion. By evening, Daniel had assembled a team, lawyers, accountants, social workers. By midnight, the foundation's charter was complete. Fundação Helena Ferreira, supporting domestic workers and their families. Mission: provide education, healthcare, legal support, and dignity to those who spend their lives in service to others. Initial funding: 180 million reais, his entire fortune. Roberto's inheritance, everything. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. Thursday, the same hotel where he'd hosted his engagement party. Poetic justice or cosmic cruelty? Daniel couldn't tell which. 50 reporters filled the room, cameras everywhere. The Andrades sat in the front row, Carolina's smile predatory, ready to watch him destroy himself. Daniel stepped to the podium. No prepared speech, no PR team, just truth, raw and unfiltered. 3 weeks ago, I denied my mother at my front door. You've all seen the video. I won't insult you with excuses. His voice was steady but hollow. I spent 10 years building an empire designed to prove I wasn't her son, that I'd escaped poverty, that I belonged in boardrooms instead of kitchens. He paused, meeting Carolina's eyes. The DNA results confirmed what my mother always knew. Roberto Andrade was my biological father. His will left me 172 million reais. By law, that money is mine. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Carolina leaned forward, victorious. I'm refusing it. The room exploded. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Instead, Daniel continued, raising his voice, I'm taking everything I own, my entire fortune, and creating a foundation in my mother's name. The Fundação Helena Ferreira will support domestic workers across Brazil, education for their children, healthcare, legal representation, dignity. He pulled out papers, holding them up. These are the charter documents, irrevocable, permanent. Every real goes to people like my mother, people who spend their lives making others comfortable while sacrificing their own futures. Carolina stood abruptly. This is a publicity stunt. You're just trying to what? Daniel's voice cut like steel. Win back my reputation? It's gone. Win back my company? I resigned. Win back the woman I thought I loved? She's in jail. He looked directly at her. I'm not doing this for redemption. I'm doing it because my mother worked 3 jobs to give me opportunities I spit on. This is payment. 40 years overdue. The room fell silent. As for the Andrade inheritance, take it. Fight over it. Destroy each other for it. I don't want blood money from a man who was too weak to be a father. He stepped away from the podium. Where's your mother? A reporter shouted. Is she here? She's in the hospital, cardiac episode, stress-induced. Daniel's voice finally cracked. Caused by me. He walked out through the side exit, ignoring the chaos behind him. At the hospital, Elena watched the broadcast on her room's small TV, tears streaming down her face. The nurse, Carla, stood beside her. He did it. He actually did it. Elena closed her eyes, her hand pressed against her chest, where her heart beat weak but steady. My son, she whispered. My son came home. Marked Destinies. Elena was released after 2 weeks. Her heart was permanently damaged. The doctors said 3 to 5 years, maybe less. Stress was forbidden. Living was now a calculated risk. Daniel moved her into a small house near Ibirapuera Park. Sunny, quiet, with a garden. He visited daily, never staying long, never pushing for forgiveness she couldn't yet give. They spoke little. Mostly he just sat while she tended her plants. You didn't have to destroy everything, she said one afternoon, 3 months after the foundation launched. Yes, I did. The money could have been yours. I had a good life for 10 years, built on your back. Daniel pulled weeds, his hands dirty for the first time in a decade. This is better. Elena watched him. The foundation won't erase what you did. I know. People won't forget. I don't want them to. Daniel sat back. What I did was unforgivable. I'm not looking for forgiveness. I'm looking for something else. What? To be worth the sacrifice you made. Eleanor's eyes filled. You always were, Daniel. Even when you denied me, you were always worth it. Then why does it still hurt? Because love and disappointment can exist in the same heart. She reached out, her hand covering his. I love you. I'm also devastated by you. Both are true. They sat in silence, the afternoon sun warm and forgiving. 6 months later, the Fundação Helena Ferreira had helped 3,000 families, scholarships, medical care, legal support. The press called it revolutionary. Daniel called it payment. Gabriela was convicted, sentenced to 4 years. Felipe married someone else. The Andrades won their battle, kept Roberto's fortune, and destroyed each other fighting over it. Carolina and Rodrigo weren't speaking. Patricia lived alone, surrounded by wealth and memories of a husband who'd loved someone else. Money hadn't made any of them happy. 1 year after the denial, Daniel sat beside Elena in the garden. Her health was declining. Months now, not years. But she was peaceful, watching butterflies dance between tomato plants. Do you regret it? Daniel asked. Everything you gave up for me? Eleanor considered carefully. I regret that you forgot, but I don't regret the giving. She looked at him. Some destinies are marked before we're born, Daniel. I was meant to be your mother. You were meant to be my son. What we do with those destinies, that's the only choice we get. I chose wrong, and then you chose right. That's redemption. Not erasing the wrong, but doing right anyway. Daniel's throat tightened. I love you, Mai. I should have said it that night. You're saying it now. That's enough. She closed her eyes, her hand in his, the sun warm on both their faces. Elena Ferreira died 6 months later, surrounded by tomatoes and the son who'd finally come home. At her funeral, 3,000 people came. Domestic workers, families, lives she'd touched through Daniel's foundation. The Andrades didn't attend. Daniel stood at her grave, March rain falling soft, reading the inscription, Elena Ferreira, 1963-2025. She gave everything and taught me that dignity isn't for sale. Years later, when people asked about his success, the foundation that changed millions of lives, he always said, I'm not successful, I'm redeemed. There's a difference. Some destinies are marked by the choices we make.